It's starting to get serious with Kitten Space Agency. Clouds, kittens, spaceships. Well, kinda. There have been some intriguing development updates since last time we talked about the current state of the game. Let's dive into it. Hello everybody and welcome! The team at Rocketworks have been busy since I spoke at length to their CEO Dean Hall in December 2024. Link to that video is on top and in the description. Over the past couple of weeks, some interesting new things have come to light regarding the spiritual successor to the beloved spaceflight simulation game Kerbal Space Program. This video is designed to be a bit of a summary of what we found out and what is going on with the development of the game. And even if you are part of the KSA Discord and follow the updates there closely, you might learn something new, so keep watching. And if this type of content is your jam, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We're closing in on 100,000 subscribers, and every one of you supporting my channel helps me getting more reach on YouTube and with a wider audience. It's easier to get access to information I would otherwise not get. But enough of that. Here's what you really want to see. 5 new things for Kitten Space Agency. First up, Orbital Mechanics. This has been a major milestone in the development of KSA. Before they can start working on parts and putting together rockets and flying them to other planets, the fundamentals need to be locked in. For this, developer Jamie Layton, also known as JPL Repo, one of the many KSP development veterans on board for KSA, has been working hard on getting what is called patched conics into a state where they are ready enough so that the team can build upon his work. With, of course, some setbacks. Or to quote him, whoops. In a non-public channel on the KSA Discord, Jamie showed off some current screenshots of very rudimentary orbital path lines, encounters with celestial bodies, and there's something else. Dean Hall mentioned in our chat that the in-house Brutal framework they use allows them to output things on multiple windows. In order to make interplanetary transfers easier than they were in Kerbal Space Program, or KSP2 for that matter, the current plan is to have a pop-up open in the game focusing on different celestial bodies. That way you can fiddle with your maneuver node and at the same time focus on your target that might be hundreds of millions of kilometers away. Getting interplanetary encounters right in KSP has always been a chore, even with mods like Precise Maneuver. Hearing that KSA developers want to tackle this problem makes me personally very glad, because that is always a huge time sink when playing KSP. As you can see, the graphics for all of this are still rudimentary. They will get prettier, don't worry. What already has been made prettier is Earth's atmosphere. Which leads us to clouds. Yes, KSA now has clouds. Lots of them. And pretty ones as well. You might recognize the style being used here because the developer responsible is well known in the community. If you are a longtime fan of Kerbal Space Program, you have already heard the name Blackrak before. Real name Ghassan Lamar. He is responsible for one of the greatest visual mods for KSP, Scatterer, and he also brought volumetric clouds to the game. Back in 2023, Intercept Games hired him to make KSP2 prettier, and after the collapse of that studio, Rocketworks hired him to do his magic on KSA. I think the results speak for themselves. Both in our interview as well as on Discord, studio boss Dean Hall was full of praise for Blackrak's work, and I believe rightfully so. Remember, this is the worst this game is ever going to look. And we haven't even reached alpha state yet. For our next item, we add the improvements for patched conics and the graphics improvements together and now bring a new ingredient into the mix. The first spaceship. Dean Hall caused a bit of a stir when he released first images of an Apollo command and service module in orbit around Earth. As stated in the past, they want to test the orbital mechanics first before moving to vehicle physics and building rockets. This is also the reason why they are using our own solar system. The properties of all objects in it are known, so it's easier to verify if the math they use in their game is correct. And with the work on maneuver nodes and patched conics being progressed as far as it has, it is time to test them with a vessel. This Apollo CSM is not made of dozens of parts like you would in KSP. While it is a vessel that does have physics, it's just made up of 2 models to test early versions of the part render system. Basically, they want to verify physics and patched conics with this to see if things work out okay before moving on to parts. Think of it being similar to a smaller scale wind tunnel model of a spacecraft back in the days before everyone started doing that with computer simulations. The team at RocketWorks chose the CSM for the same reason they chose our solar system. It's a known quantity. We know how it should look like, how the sun should reflect off of its surfaces or how the light should be absorbed. If the fundamentals for this vessel turn out to be okay, they are going to let loose people like Chris Adderley, also known as Nertea, who is a veteran KSP modder and former KSP2 developer. From how Dean put it on their Discord server, it seems those people are already chomping at the bit to have a go to, quote, layer in the content and fun stuff. Speaking of fun stuff, there are also some fun concept drawings for the namesake of Kitten Space Agency, the Kittens. When we think of kittens, we tend to think of these helpless little furballs with high-pitched meows. But that doesn't seem to be the image that RocketWorks want to generate for the protagonists.
These aren't just dumb little adorable kittens. I want these to be really serious, scientists and pilots and astronauts and engineers. So, they might look adorable, but they're not to be trifled with. They're smart.
To that effect, the team published some concept art on their Discord server with kittens in the style of the Apollo mission. And those of you who are also on the KSA Discord server will probably recognize the fish emoji. And yes, with those proportions and that orange suit and the pear-shaped body in the first draft, which is not going to be the final body shape, there's some undeniable similarities to the Kerbals we all know and love. All of this is still early work and subject to change, especially the body form. The limbs are going to become longer, the paws maybe even bigger. As everything with KSA right now, this is very much work in progress, so don't hate on it yet. Maybe all of us are no longer used to a game development studio being that open with how they do things from such an early point on. It's honestly very refreshing to see and a stark contrast to how KSP2 was handled. Speaking of that, another big differentiator to the ill-fated sequel is KSA for free. Already back when I interviewed Dean Hall, he stated that they want to make the game free for schools, maybe even everyone. It appears that there have been further thoughts into this direction since we last spoke, because he had this to say on Discord. The goal is to make the game free and power it by donations. Rather ambitious, because there's a long road ahead before KSA can be called a finished game. In the meantime, KSP2 is still being sold for $50 on Steam despite being unfinished and nobody working on it. That in itself is a topic for a completely different video, probably coming soon. Speaking of money, this would usually be a good spot for a YouTuber to squeeze in some product to sell you. Don't worry, not going to happen. I have more than 500 videos on my channel and only one until now was sponsored. That was for Juno New Origins and I still highly recommend that game. I have a day job to pay the bills, this is just a side gig. I have thought about doing YouTube full-time one day, but the thought of doing sponsorships never sat well with me, and ad revenue alone isn't going to cut it. If you want to enable me to maybe one day switch to full-time YouTuber and therefore be able to put out more content and with higher quality, you can help by either becoming a supporter on Patreon or you can join as a YouTube channel member. Or if one-off things are more your style, there should be a super thanks button down there somewhere. Some of you have asked me in the past what type of gear I use. I recently upgraded my PC with a new CPU, motherboard and RAM, which sped up editing my videos significantly. I put some affiliate links in the descriptions you can go and visit if you're interested. Good content cannot be produced if it cannot be financed. So let's all hope that KSA manages to get financed by the power of the community and not by messy publishing deals. Speaking of KSA, what's to come for the badass kittens in space? Well, they themselves will get a couple of makeovers, that's for sure. And for me, finally being able to see a spacecraft within the game makes me feel they are about to hit some important milestones soon. Dean Hall said they want to put a very early access version of the game out for free in early 2025. With the first rudimentary vessels starting to show up, this might actually happen in that time frame. And even if it's later, I personally am still excited about the developments I have seen so far, and even more excited about the open and transparent communication that is happening between Rocketworks, the community on Discord, and content creators like myself. But what do you think? Is the team heading into the right direction? Are we going to have an early access version of the game before the summer? Will Rocketworks succeed in financing the game through donations alone? Let me know in the comments below or head on over to my Discord server, link is in the description. And as always, a huge thanks to all the wonderful people who already support this channel with their hard-earned money on Patreon or as a YouTube member. I really appreciate it. Me? I'm going to keep a close eye on KSA's development and will update you just as I did now.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more and follow me on my social thingies. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.